The deceased is taken to a large marquee set up for this very purpose. On the second day, actors enact the last episode of the holy man's life. His body is placed on the stage, where he is the main character in the play.
I have come to visit you on the first day of Lent, and I heard of your death. I had brought offerings so that you would not lack anything. Master, your disciple deplores your death.
Don't cry, don't cry.
What am I going to do without your advice? Your disciple doesn't know what to do.
Pull yourself together.
You used to show me the way. I'm desperate. I do not know what to do any longer.
Wipe your tears. Pull yourself together. On the third day, the crowd gathers to accompany the deceased to the cremation tower. But first, the soul has to be freed, so the carriers move the coffin about, so that the soul can get lost and not find its way back into the body. Without this ceremony, the soul would come back and haunt the house and the people who live there. The superior of the monastery was an authentic wise man. The crowd has no doubt about this. But nowadays, it is more and more customary to see an extraordinary sight for a Buddhist country. Monks in cinema queues, restaurants, and even football grounds. It is not unusual to see someone on the point of being arrested quickly don saffron robes. The faithful grumble about this, but they are not yet outraged. The monks have always had a considerable influence on the population, who won't do anything without consulting them. Their power was so great that in 1962 they demonstrated publicly and jeopardized the future of the state. The government made sure they returned to their monasteries and peace returned to the streets. Lake Inle is inhabited by an original lake-dwelling population, the Intas, which means the sons of the lake. They row their boats standing up, with a leg wound around the paddle, which enables them to see the vegetation just under the surface. Their fishing technique is to lay a net basket on the floor of the lake, and then to harpoon the fish caught in the basket. Some of the fishermen use more traditional fishing nets. They chase the fish to the nets by beating the water. The Intas, who are mainly fishermen or farmers, live in about 80 villages built on the shores of the lake, or the lake itself. They farm on floating islands formed by mud-covered water hyacinths. If a farmer wants more farming land, he simply goes to the shore and singles out an island, cuts it out, and then tows it back and anchors it near his house or his village. The Intas are fine craftsmen and such excellent traders that they have the highest standard of living in Burma. The Great Market takes place every 5 days on the shores of the lake. Other ethnic groups meet with the Intas and exchange their goods and gossip. Besides central Burma, which is mainly inhabited by Burmans, the peripheral regions harbor more than 100 various ethnic groups. A different group lives in each valley, and each of the groups speaks a different language, wears different clothes, and has different customs. The most important of these ethnic groups have initiated movements for national liberation. For the past 30 years, the central government has had to pay a high price for controlling these endless rebellions. After the torrid season, towards the end of May, the summer monsoon breaks. Winds blow in from the Gulf of Bengal and bring torrential rains, which last up to October. For the population, they guarantee a bumper harvest. In Rangoon, it can rain for days on end, but this doesn't stop pilgrims from visiting the Shwedagon Pagoda, Burma's largest. This year, once more, the rain will wash away part of the thin gold sheet, which completely covers the stupa. It will have to be replaced next year. "3,000 people are crammed into a bamboo marquee. The most prestigious theater company in the country is presenting a play for the 6th time running. The Zat Pue is a great performance combining acting, dancing, music and songs. Some people have traveled long distances to see the Schweman Brothers show, which will be on stage until 5 a.m. Many years of hard work are necessary to become a Zat star. The actors have to know all the intricacies of Buddha's life, classical literature, and the history of the country. There are only 5 or 6 professional Zat companies left in the country. Little by little, their magnificent costumes, scenery, and the freedom of their lives are being restricted. The state doesn't grant them any financial help, soldiers not being as generous as kings. More and more classical plays are being replaced by modern ones, in which the social characters of the bad landowner or the courageous socialist soldier predominate. The young are enthusiastic and the old appreciative, but the latter admit that all this is a little beyond them. Minji and Mingale live in their palace in the village of Tanjiu. Legend has it that Beata, having eaten the corpse of an alchemist, suddenly became able to cover a 10-day trip in one day. Thanks to Beata, King Anawata conquered the rich city of Taton. One day, Beata arrived late at the palace for the birth of his second son. The king used this pretext to execute his friend Beata, who had become too powerful. The king then brought up Beata's two sons. When the two brothers had grown up, the king sent them to China and gave them the mission of bringing back Buddha's tooth, which the emperor of China had jealously kept for himself. This mission appeared impossible, but nevertheless the young men succeeded in stealing the tooth. However, Anawata has them put to death because they had not contributed a brick for the construction of a new pagoda. The brothers became Nats. Nats are legendary characters who during their lives suffered from injustice or violence. They are shown in the form of small statues which have supernatural powers. In other words, they are benevolent spirits. Minji and Mingale are celebrated only once a year. On that day, their wives, ministers, and a hierarchy of devoted mediums parade through the town. It's impossible to appeal to Buddha to settle worldly problems, so the Nats carry out this function. Each year the believers come and dance and leave offerings at the foot of the two brothers. In order to address the Nats, mediums are called in. Very often they are women, the wives of male Nats or homosexual sorcerers, who act as go-betweens. Any request is put to the competent Nat, who will settle the price beforehand. A bottle of alcohol. Nats like to drink. Mount Popper is the official residence of the Nats. The richest Burmese monk, the Shimpia Sierra